Hello, hello again. It's Monica from Life is Art, and we are coming at you with another crafting time. We're going to get as much crafting time in as we can today, apparently. So let's just give everybody a moment to find us. I said 7:15, but it's more like 20 after 7. Because, had to get a couple things posted and whatnot. I'm just so excited to craft. I don't want to give myself enough time to do the other things. Alrighty, so we have been looking at our new catalogs at this launch party, and we're going back to the September-October catalog, and we're only flipping, I think, one page away from the last card that we made. We're going to do another card, but I really wanted to play with this stuff on this page. And yes, it is the page that I had to buy everything from, and I have resisted the urge to use any of it until now. So you're going to get to see me do all of these things first try on live camera, and we will see how it goes. And usually that means if it goes well, then anybody can do it, right? So this is the page that has the Christmas Florals Embossing folder, the Christmas Floral Stencil, and the Holiday Banner Stamp and Thin Cuts. And to keep everything easy for myself, and because you guys are looking at the same catalog I'm looking at, I am going to be recreating this card right here at the bottom. And let's give it a go. So this is page 47 in the September-October catalog. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. And the good thing about that is that every time you comment, at least once, during my live videos, then you get another entry into the door prize draw for each video that you comment on. So if you commented in the walkthrough, you got an entry. If you comment in this one, you get an entry. If you commented on the last live video one, you get another entry. So woohoo! If you've commented on all 3 videos, you've already got 3 entries into the door prize draw. Awesome, awesome. Good evening, Michelle. How's it going? And Janet's here too. Howdy, howdy. And so we are going to start out with doing the embossing bit because I have been itching to pull this sucker out of the package. So this is the Christmas Florals Embossing folder. And usually once I get it out of this baggie, it's never going back in because it's a tight squeeze. So I always find I have to bust the zipper on the side to get the embossing folders out. So there it is. The Christmas Florals has some lovely poinsettias on there and some berries and little spriggy leafy things happening. So we're going to be creating this card here. That's why I've got it just tucked to the side there so we can see it for reference. Oh, Michelle, you've got it on the order already. Woohoo! Hey, Joanne, back again. So we are going to do some embossing with this. Let's bring in the machine. In order to use an embossing folder, you have to have a machine that will accommodate for it. I have gone ahead and cut a piece of white daisy that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And all you do is open it up. Again, first time using this, so you never know what might happen. Just center it on there, close it up. I'm going to set it down. Hopefully it doesn't shift too much. I got to get my sandwich ready, so use whatever sandwich works in your machine. Mine, I have to kind of get rid of some of those. I'll layer it up here. And Close to My Heart has their own machine, but I don't have it. I have this one that I've had for many, 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 many years, and I'll just keep using it until it doesn't work anymore, and then I'll have to replace it. There we go. We've run it through. Now, some people like to go back and forth. I always figure, well, once should be good enough. Plus, we're going to stencil on there. Now I can fold everything all up and get it out of the way because we won't need it anymore for this card. There we go. Okay, we got Janet doing a drum roll for us. So let's see what the reveal is. Hey, Heather. And ta-da-ta-da. There we go. We have our embossed image. So I hope you can see that in the light, even just doing it on plain white and just leaving it as plain white like it is in this particular card is gorgeous because you get that lovely texture on there. But we're going to take it a step further. We're going to add the ink. So let's move our embossing folder out of the way and let's bring in our all-purpose mat, our messy mat. We're going to just slide this under here. I'm kind of working on a small frame because I zoomed in so you can see what's happening. So there we go. Push everything out of the way. I've got the embossing powder we just used sitting there, and I just knocked it over. Just willy-nilly knocked it over. Okay, so now we need our stencils. So these are the Christmas floral stencils, and you can use the embossing folder and ignore the stencils. You can just buy the embossing folder because that creates a gorgeous look. Like this one here, where they've done it in pine and then sanded off bits. So you can do things with just the embossing folder, or you can just get the stencil and just use the stencil because this one here is just using the stencil. They didn't do the embossing first. Or you can get them both and go for the gusto and use both the stencil and the embossing folder. So we are going to start with the first layer. I'm going to call it the first layer, which is the poinsettia leaves and the little berries. So what we need to do is figure out which way the stencil needs to go to match with the embossing folder. There we go. And the great thing is that because this has already been embossed, the stencil is going to kind of snug down around the embossed bits, and it's going to kind of hold it in place a little bit. I mean, I'm going to hold it with my hand too, but because it's got that raised bit coming up through a lot of the pieces, it's not bound to shift as much. I'm not saying it's not going to shift, it's not going to shift as much. So we're going to start out with our candy apple ink here. And you can see I'm keeping my hand on there since now I've got it in the right spot. Keep shifting hands. So I've got candy apple. I've got my little piece of the drawer liner here to keep my ink pad from shifting around while I use my blending brush. So I've got my little blending brush, and I have one blending brush for each color family. So not one for each color, one for each. So I use this for reds and pinks. So all my reds and pinks, and in between I just kind of rub it off on a tissue, and eventually I will have to go and like wash it. You can wash these because eventually you can see that the bristles kind of start getting a little bit clumpy together, and it's just nicer when they're nice and smooth and separated. So eventually I will have to wash it. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and add some candy apple red to my poinsettias and the little berries. And I'm going to kind of do a little bit light all around like this. And then I'm going to come in a second time and I'm going to do a little bit darker just in the center of my poinsettias. And I can even kind of swipe out towards the ends from that center. So you get a bit of a gradient of color happening that way. I'm going to do that again. And just kind of swipe out so that it kind of fades as it goes to the tips. And we're going to do that over here too. We're going to go around and then we're going to swipe from the center. Lovely, lovely. We can add some more color on the berries. Everywhere there's berries. Like so. And we're going to go lightly over the poinsettia first. And then we're going to add some extra color in the center. And then we're going to swipe out from the center all the way around like that. I'm going to shift my hand a bit. I'm going to keep coloring. This is like the lazy person's way of coloring anything, is to use a stencil. And you don't even have to be lazy to use it. It's kind of one of those work smarter, not harder things. I mean, I could sit here with a marker or a pencil crayon and I could color these, but boy, oh boy, just rubbing this around on the stencil is super quick and easy in comparison. And who doesn't want to have something that's super quick and easy by times? Sometimes we like to take the extra effort to do something extra special, but I think this is perfectly acceptable. So let's do a reveal, see what layer 1 has produced. Oh my goodness, even just that layer. Look how fun that is. I'm so excited. Look at that. And you get that nice gradient of color coming from the center and getting a little lighter as, sorry, I keep forgetting where my camera is because I've got it turned the wrong way around. And so pretty. Okay, let's grab our little spritzer here because I've got some red ink now on my all-purpose mat, and I'll be sure to grab it with my next blending brush and drag it in when I'm trying to do a different color. So just going to give it a little spritz and a little wipe. We'll use that again. And now I'm going to go to layer number 2. And layer number 2 is going to require a little bit darker color. So I'm going to go for Scarlet. And the great thing about the catalog is that it tells me right down here at the bottom the colors that were used. So I've got Scarlet, Candy Apple, Mist, Seabrook, Harbor Pine, Mocha. So those are used in all these cards. So you just have to kind of look at, I've shoved it off the side here. You just have to kind of look at which card it is that you want to do and decide which color they used for it. So on this one, we've definitely got 2 colors of red going. So Scarlet and Candy Apple it is. And then we've got our next layer of our stencil coming in. And again, we need to just figure out which way to go. I think that works. Now this one, because it's a little bit more detailed, is not going to sit directly on any of the bumps, because this is adding the veins on the poinsettias and on, is it on the leaves too? And a little bit on the leaves, the green leaves. So, maybe actually, maybe I will actually do this layer next. I will do this layer next. I am, because that other one also has the veins for the leaves. So let's get the leaves on there first. We're going to use Seabrook for this. So get our Seabrook out, and we're using this layer that has the holly leaves and the little stems going on, and also the centers of the poinsettias. So let's get those lined up. And again, this one will kind of fit those holly leaves, which will help hold it in place. Although, if you want, you can add a little bit of washi tape or something to the back side of your cardstock and have it just grab on the edge here. If you've done much stenciling, that's a good technique. And I think that's pretty good. I think I've got it lined up all right. So I'm grabbing my brush that I use with greens. We're going to add some Seabrook here to our leaves and our little stems. Just making sure. I'm just trying to see. Yes, Seabrook. Oh, couldn't really see what I was looking at. There we go. And we can do the same thing with these holly leaves. We can give them a little bit of color and then add a little bit of darkness at one end. So give it all a little bit of color and then add a little extra, like that, just to create some depth. And we'll continue coloring all the little stemmy stems. Let's add a little extra going this way on this one, like so. I'm going to shift my hand all the way around. Sometimes I find it hard to figure out what to say when I'm stenciling, because it's a lot of the same thing over and over again. Michelle says she loves stencils even more with the blending brushes. Absolutely. I find the blending brushes are like 100 times better for stenciling than the foam. And they get into all the little nooks and crannies, and they put down a soft color to begin with, and then you just add a little more if you want a little more. It doesn't have to be full-on color right from the get-go, and I find the foam blending tools are fabulous, but it tends to get more color in certain spots, and you also tend to end up with weird circles, because I'm not that talented with the blending foams. I work at it, but I end up with weird circles in weird places. So there we go. We've got our Seabrook on there. And now you can see we've added more color. And we're creating some fun layers. Let me grab this. A little spray. A little spritz. A little swish. Clean that all-purpose mat off. That's why we use that mat. Alrighty. So now we've got that on there. We can come in with our last layer. Now this is going to be one where we're kind of adding stuff in a couple places, but we're going to add all Scarlet. So let's make sure we've got our stencil the right way. We're adding little bits onto the these long green stems as well as on the poinsettias. So I'm just making sure we get it on there nice and straight. We're also adding the veins on the holly. And there we go. It's getting there. It's looking good. Sometimes you get, I think I need to move the bottom just a little bit to the left. But I'm just getting persnickety now. It's pretty much centered on here. So you just have to kind of keep everything in the center. So let me grab my Scarlet again. We'll bring it back in. We didn't use it the first time. We changed our mind. Did a different layer. But this makes more sense to have this one on the last. So let's grab some Scarlet ink. Now we don't need to go too dark with this because Scarlet is pretty dark to begin with. So we're just going to start out a little bit light, a little bit light-handed. You know how they talk about being heavy-handed? We're going to start out light-handed. And then I'm going to take a little peek and just see how it's going. Because you can keep your hand here to hold everything down, and you can take a little peek, and oh my goodness, isn't that beautiful? I'm going to add a little extra Scarlet just on these little spriggy bits, but I like how much I'm getting on the poinsettias and the green leaves. I like that amount of ink. But these little spriggy bits, I'm going to come and give a little extra lovin' to, just to have a little bit different color happening. There we go. And keep going all the way around. All right, so we're going to add a little extra here, like that, a little extra here, like that, and then just all around there, a little extra here, and a little extra there, and then I'm going to have to stick my fingers into the ink to get this last little bit in the corner. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see what this is going to look like. We're going to need another drum roll, Janet. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Move this. I'm excited. And we're going to peel this off. And, ooh. Is anybody else doing an ooh right now? Oh my goodness, that is so pretty. I like that little extra here, just to make it a little bit different from everything else. Wow, so fun. So fun. And we'll give it a little spray. I'm going to spray my fingers too, because they've gotten a little inky and I don't want to get ink everywhere. Some people even wear gloves when they do stuff like this. That's not me. I'm good with getting a little inky. I just don't want to get ink everywhere. Let's move this out of the way. And let's get to creating the rest of our cards. So we've got our card base. And this is a standard size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, scored in the center, folding it with the bump side to the inside. Just going to use the handle of my scissors to fold that down. Making sure we have our fold at the top, because this is a top fold. And I have a piece of pine cardstock that I have cut to fit the card front. Now, I am pretty sure that this card is actually using the pine pattern paper from the Home for Christmas collection in the background. I can see the pattern on there, and I am not going to use that because I have more cardstock than pattern paper. So since there is just a tiny little edge showing, I decided, creative art decision, that I would just use pine cardstock for mine. So it's totally up to you what you use. If you're like me and you want to conserve your pattern paper, then this is a good option. The other option is to gut out the center of this, or, die cut some things out of it. I'm actually going to turn this to make sure I can layer this up. Going to use that cardstock at a 45-degree angle, just push it up to my fingertips so I can feel that everything is touching the edge, and then lay it down. There we go. And then we can add this. Let me see. Let's see if we can match it up with the picture this way. And add it on top. Like so. And you sometimes have to add a little extra adhesive when you've done embossing, because not everything is touching, right? It's not a flat piece of paper anymore. So it's a good idea to add a little extra. You can even use liquid glue if you want. Liquid glue can sometimes be messy. So I'm just going to go with this. If you use too much liquid glue and you've done stenciling and your paper gets moist, you may actually disturb the ink on the front of your card. I'm going to turn it again because I always find it easier to line things up this way. And lay that down like that. So pretty. Yay! Then I've gone ahead and I have used my circles thin cuts. Remember when we were going through that Essentials catalog, I said I use the circles thin cuts all the time. So I've used the second largest, which is the 2.5-inch circle, to cut out a circle of white daisy. And we're going to use the pine ink right here with a little foam wedge. I have a little baggie of foam wedges because I took these to 2 crops this past weekend. And these are our round sponges. And you just cut them into 6 little wedges. And then you can use it for doing some nice little edge inking on things or adding color on things. You can even use them for stenciling if you want. There we go. So we've added a little bit of pine all around the edge there. Might as well tuck this back in the bag. Actually, I'm going to need some more of those, but a different color in a minute. So there is our little circle. I'm not going to stick it down just yet. Well, yeah, I think it is kind of in the center. I wasn't sure if it was in the center, but I think it is. So let's go ahead and stick it down. Again, I'm going to use a little extra adhesive just because this is on top of embossed. So some of it's raised and some of it's not. So it helps to have a little extra so that you know it's touching somewhere. And just take the backings off of those. Michelle is loving the stencil. Deborah is loving the stencil. So let's kind of eyeball the center of our card. Kind of about there. We can actually kind of look at where it hits the stenciled image on that one. And having this circle here just kind of gives your sentiment a spot to sit and a little bit of a break from the busy pattern in the background, right? You're just kind of giving a little rest before you hit the sentiment. So that is nice when you do that. Then we've got a couple pieces of paper here. I have some Seabrook that I have cut to 1 1/4 inches by 3 3/4, and a piece of that same pine. Remember, it's the back of the grid from the Mix-In collection, and this is 1 1/4 by 4 1/4. So it's a little bit longer than the Seabrook. We're going to do some stamping on the Seabrook with the gorgeous holiday banner stamp set. And so this one has that nice big Believe, which is what we're going to be stamping here, but also the poinsettias and the banners and all sorts of fun things. But we're just going to be stamping the Believe first. And we're going to use pine ink for this. Again, brand new. Listen to that. Little bit of ASMR there. The sound of new stamps. Let's see if this makes a sound. Not really. Got to walk it off your stamp carrier sheet. And let me bring this in. It's a little bit large, but it works. And then we need to season this because it's a brand new stamp. And so there's factory oils on the stamp. And if you season it on your hand or your arm or use the rub and remove eraser on it, it replaces the factory oil with your skin and oil. And somehow that is better for stamping. Yeah, you know, strange. You can also use the foam that comes in your stamp set as a stamping surface, or you can use the back of your Versamat, which is probably the best stamping surface. We're going to use our pine ink. Let's just scooch that out of the way to stamp up our Believe sentiment. And get it inked up. We want to just make sure, because this is a new stamp. So let me actually bring in that scrap piece of paper I had earlier that I put a paper trimmer on top of. I want to just check how well it's stamping, how well I seasoned it. Oh, lovely. Wonderful. That's going to stamp up a treat, as they say. So let's ink it up. We're going to stamp it in the center. Believe. The great thing about clear stamps and clear blocks is that you can see what you're doing. And then that needs to be washed up. And move that out of the way. We are going to dovetail the ends of this with scissors. Snip in the center. And then just come in from the corner to the top of my snip. Corner to the top of the snip. Go to the other side. Snip in the center. Corner to the top. Corner to the top. The one thing you want to avoid doing when you dovetail is snipping too far in. A 1/4 to a 1/2 inch at the most. Even on really big pieces of paper, if you go farther than that, it starts to look very awkward. It actually has a better effect when you make a shallower dovetail. Weirdly enough, it has a nicer effect. And so that's my caution with dovetailing. Make it smaller than you think, and if you need to add more, you can add more. But if you go too big at first, there's no coming back from it, right? It's like the measure twice, cut once rule. Works with these as well. Works with paper as well. So we've got our circle on there, and we've got our mix-in paper that we're going to add, and it's going to go kind of there. And then this is going to go above a little bit, like that. And then we have a couple of poinsettias. So before we stick anything down, because we're going to do a little bit of tucking, let's stamp up those poinsettias. So I've got the piece of white daisy that I die cut my circle out of that I can use for stamping the poinsettias. And we've got them here on the carrier sheet. Let's start with the large one. And especially when they're brand new, you want to be careful. I like to walk them off. And then the smaller one. I like that there's two sizes of poinsettias. It's very handy. Let's grab some blocks. That's my 3x3 and my 2x2. And we're going to stamp the big one first. Let's season them both up. Use your arm or your hand. If you go too hard, you're going to give yourself stamp rash. That's what we call it. Stamp rash. That means you just did too much seasoning. I'm going to scooch this over here. And we are going to stamp these with, yeah, let's use pine. Why not? It looks a little bit dark, like maybe Harbor, and that is one of the colors they use. But it's a poinsettia. Let's use pine. We're going to go with the big one first. Actually, we're not using the big one. Did anybody else notice that? We're not using the big one. We're doing two little ones. Woo! Caught myself in time. Would have been okay, though, because I would just use it on something else. Let's add two little ones. Got all excited there. I was going to stamp big ones. Oh, well. And because they're stamped now, we don't have to do any coloring. We can just leave them this way. And that's another kind of visual break on this card, is that we have that white circle, but then our poinsettias are also very much just a line drawing. Now, this stamp set can also be purchased with thin cuts. I did not purchase it with thin cuts because I like to do this. However, if you are a person who does not like to fussy cut, then you will want to get it with the thin cuts. So we'll just go all the way around, pivoting our paper as we fussy cut, and just follow the edge, leaving a little halo of white. It's kind of a repeated thing. You're just going up the petal and back down the petal and up the petal and back down the petal. If you stare at it too long, you make yourself dizzy. You're going around and around. So just get to the end. There we go. One poinsettia. And then the next one. Up the poinsettia and down the poinsettia. So pretty. I like it. Makes a little center, but we're actually going to cover up a bit of that center because we're going to add some bling. Why not? Every card looks just that little bit nicer finish with a little bit of bling on it of some kind. Something a little shiny, something a little different. And I've got too much excess, so just snip off to the edge and then finish going around. And it's always that last snip. This takes the extra little bit of, thought. Okay, so now we can go ahead and let's stick down our pine pattern paper. Couple little strips. And I think we will use some foam tape to add our Believe banner. So let's have this kind of about there. It's a very technical measurement, kind of about there. And then let's add some foam tape onto the back of here, like so. I forgot to order foam tape, so I'm using the substandard foam tape again. But I've already got a few things in my cart from that sale that's going on that just started at 5 o'clock, so I can add some foam tape to that. Joanne was wondering. She was like, I don't see a large poinsettia there. Yeah, my brain put a large poinsettia in, and I think this believes actually kind of on a little bit of an angle. It kind of looks to me like it is, so I'm going to put it on a little bit of an angle. It's not a big angle, just a little angle. And then we can go ahead and add our poinsettias. You were very polite about it, though, Joanne. You weren't shouting at me going, "What are you doing?" That's not a big one. And then we're going to tuck this guy in behind. And because we've got that foam tape, we're going to need to trim a little bit off. And then we can tuck it in there. And the center is just right close to the edge there. And then this little guy is going to go down here. And again, he's going to need a little bit of a trim as well. Those two little bits there. Add some adhesive. Oh my goodness, this is so pretty. So if any of you get Christmas cards from me this year, this might be just one of those Christmas cards that I make. For sure. It's just a little bit of paper and a little bit of ink. Looking good. Now we need our little embellishment. And I had somewhere in the pile of all the little bags that came out of the stencils and the embossing folder, some red dots. Now, I do not have enough of the candy apple dots to have the same size dot, but I do have a medium and I do have a small. So I'm going to put the medium up here, and then I'm going to put the small one down here, and that is going to be just perfect. I think they were both small ones on this particular card, but you use what you have. So there we have recreated that gorgeous card from page 47, and I just realized that we forgot to do one thing. I wonder if I can fix it. I wonder. Let me just see. Sometimes we can do this. Oh, it's going to work. It's going to work. Remember how I said we were going to use the sponge again? We were supposed to ink around the edge of this. Let me just grab. That one looks reddish. We're going to use, let me see, let's use Scarlet around the edge of this one, just very lightly, just a little light bit of Scarlet around this. We wouldn't have even noticed if I hadn't said anything, but we might as well do it all. There we go. Who else does that? Get something stuck on something, and then we just peel it right back off. Now I have to make sure that I cover up the bits of the card that is chopped off. There we go. Look at that. There, we have now recreated the card from page 47 in the catalog using that gorgeous Florals, Christmas Florals Embossing folder to create the lovely texture, and then the stencils to add the candy apple and the Scarlet, the Seabrook, and all those gorgeous details on there. Then adding in our circle. We've got pine in the background. Now in the catalog, it's pattern paper. I just went for plain cardstock. Inking around the circle, which gives ourselves a visual break from all the patterns. Then adding in that mix-in paper and the Seabrook stamped with pine on the poinsettias, and a little bit of red dot bling to finish it off, and I think that just looks gorgeous. I hope you guys love seeing this card come together and feel inspired to get some Christmas crafting going in your crafty space. And so we are going to be back on to do another round of crafting at about 8:45. 8:45. We'll be back on to do some more crafting, and I'm going to be posting a few games in the meantime, so be sure to look out for those. All right, we'll see you soon. Toodaloo. Bye.